This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, class. Welcome to our multi-part video series on common mistakes made by new counselors, clearly within counseling sessions with new clients. So this is going to be a really great experience for all of us. For some of you, we've already in class together. We've gone through some of these, perhaps this particular example. But again, just to walk you through what's going to be happening here and how you can really maximize the benefits and application of your learning in watching these videos, please follow the following tips. I first recommend that you guys, while you're watching the videos of the counselors in particular, the counselors with the clients, that you not only take note of the skills that you think maybe the counselor is not using or is failing to use, right? Maybe potential pitfalls, but that you also make use of the ones that they are not make use. You make note of the ones that they are using, right? You want to be able to identify those, kind of call those out. You see me doing this, right? Client saying something, I'm going like this. What is this, right? Nonverbal attending behavior, right? So also, I would say, of course, do look for those pitfalls. Don't stay overly focused on just looking for those skills, because knowing those pitfalls is going to be something that's going to be very helpful to you guys in the long term too. And oftentimes in the videos, you'll see that you can identify. There's something you're able to pick up on before you get to the later videos in the 3-part series, right? That kind of clues you in as to how the session's going, what maybe is going wrong there. And always, if you do feel like you're identifying something that is maybe wrong or rather could be better, always ask yourself, well, if this could be done better, how might I approach this in a different, better way? Right? So, because that's what we're also looking for, right? Get your own spin on it. So with that, in that same vein, rather, what I also want you guys to do is maybe give these a play through after, right? After you give them all watch through once and you've done the prior recommendations that I've given, maybe give it an additional watch through and pause the video as it goes during just particularly the first part of the 3-video series, right? So the first part video will always see the counselor and the client, okay? So you want to pause it every time the client responds and ask yourself, what would I say? How would I respond, right? So I think that's something that can be tremendously helpful, right? While you will not have the client on the other end to respond back to you to know exactly how you did, right? You will get that practice. And through watching these, I do think they're going to provide examples of sort of what not to do. And then additionally, in comes the importance of watching all the videos in the 3-video series here, right? Because in that 3rd video, you're going to see the client's perspective of how it went when talking to the supervisor of that counselor, right? And in that session, take note in particular, not only of what is being said and how the client felt given what was going on in the session with the counselor, right? And the skills they were or were not using. But also keep in mind and take note of the skills being used by the supervisor in that very interaction with the client of the counselor they're supervising, because they're implementing glorious amounts of these nonverbal and verbal attending skills, relationship building and rapport building skills that we're looking for, right, and that we need. So that's definitely not only just going to show you pitfalls, but it also provides you with an ideal example of, or rather an exemplary example of those skills as well, as seen from the supervisor, okay? So with that, let's get started. I'm going to pull up the first video here. And the first video, I believe, is Angela counseling Rosemarie.
What would you like to talk about? My feelings. I feel so inadequate. I retired and came back to school. I'm in the grad program, and everything is very positive. My sister became very ill and then died, and things just snowballed. I can't seem to think. I'm full of anxiety, and it's just not been a positive experience for me. I'm not sure of myself, so the inadequacy comes through, the anxiety comes through, and I just don't know what to do.
It sounds like you're really stressed out with everything going on in your life. Have you tried doing exercise?
I walk, I try and eat a balanced diet, but it doesn't seem to help. I just don't feel as if I'm using my potential, or that maybe I don't have it. And it's killing me.
Have you maybe talked to the professors about how they feel your progress is in the program to give you some confidence?
They're very supportive, and I've shared my feelings and my experiences with them. But it's there. And sometimes I just don't know what I'm doing because I'm so overwhelmed with this anxiety. I'm at a placement, and that has not been a supportive experience. So that's added to the stress.
Have you investigated other placements that you could do your practice on now?
Well, I'm signed there for a year, and so I need to stay there. I don't have enough clients, and that's added to it.
Could it be possible that if you maybe read more books, did more research on the internet about who you're working with, that might make it easier for your job at your practicing site?
I don't know if that's going to help. If I get the clients, I can do it. I'm not getting the clients, and that's added to the stress. Plus the anxiety of my sister's death, and then my brother-in-law wanted me to sell a house and move up there, and all that's just been very painful.
Have you thought about doing relaxation techniques, such as deep breathing and dealing with anxiety, or going for a massage?
Well, I haven't gone for a massage, but I do a lot of walking. I love to walk down Commonwealth, and I think that's very peaceful, but it doesn't seem to help. The anxiety is there, and the feeling of inadequacy is there.
Could you go for a walk more often?
Well, there's only 24 hours in a day, and I take at least an hour and a half to walk.
Could you get a pet? Maybe have it along with you?
I don't want a pet. That is out.
Could you ask a friend to go for the walk with you?
I prefer being alone when I walk.
You like being alone and having to yourself.
Two things. I'm quite gregarious, but the walk is my time for myself. With that anxiety builds up, and I just don't know what to do about it. That inadequacy is there. And I want help in dealing with that.
Okay, and there we have it. So hopefully you guys were able to pretty solidly pinpoint what the common pitfall there was, and that was giving too much advice. Okay. Remember, I always say that we can advise clients, that's fine, but we're not there to give advice. Okay. And if you still have questions between the distinction that's there between those two things, then shoot me an email. We'll find time to talk about it. But very important, right? So, all right, let's check out this first video in jumbling up my words. It's quite late at the time I'm recording this over here. Our first clip it of the counselor talking to their supervisor about how they feel the session went. So let's see how Angela feels things went with Rosemarie. And again, please be mindful of not only what Angela is saying surrounding how she perceived her interaction with the client, but also of the skills being implemented by the supervisor.
Hi. So how was that session for you?
I felt good about the ending. I felt like I helped my client. I gave her something I could work with.
You felt like you helped her.
Yes.
And how was the relationship?
At some points, I felt like she was resistant to what I advised her to do. And at some points, I felt like she was receptive to it. But I did feel that she was listening to what I had to say. And she seemed a very sweet person.
It sounds like you liked her. In spite of this.
In spite of being resistant, but I can understand she seemed frustrated. So she's trying to find the best way to solve the problem. And I think I gave her something to work with.
You sound very confident with the session went down.
I felt it went well. At some points, like I said, there was resistance, which was a little frustrating for me, but I felt at the end that we kind of came together and came to that decision.
Tell me about how you experienced her resistance.
For example, when I suggested the walking, she said, 24 hours a day, she couldn't do it 24 hours a day when I suggested she walk more. When I asked about talking to the family, she had a response right away that they're tired of listening to her. So she seemed at some point not willing to try something, but she's already trying to make it a little bit more of it. She wanted a new answer to her problem.
I think you might have felt a little bit of frustration.
I felt that.
And at the end, overall, she found something that worked for her.
I think so. I think it'll be easy fix for her to go talk to her professors and get maybe a mentor that can help her with her problem.
If you were to see her again, how do you think the session would go?
I think we could talk about how her taking advice from her professors and mentor is going. And from there, encourage her more to do that more, or possibly think of some questions.
We will follow up with the homework that you did. You need to look for other solutions. Anything else you'd like to say about the session?
I felt good about giving her advice, but at some point I felt a little pressure to find that answer for her.
You felt responsible.
I felt responsible for what I was doing. But it was kind of fun in the process.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you.
So just some comments for me, and of course I'll always have a comment here or there, and believe me, I'm trying to withhold my comments here because we will talk further about these in class. And I do want to hear your own original thoughts and ideas. But at the same time, I just think something to note, and maybe we'll talk about it in our next meeting together, is in this particular video, the vibe I got, if someone asked me what was the client's presenting problem here when she showed up and she said, what's bringing you in, I would say that the client pretty much articulated it was this overwhelming sense of purposelessness that she just couldn't really seem to figure out how to abate or how to minimize. And at the same time, we also, at the conclusion of this video, the counselor is saying that she really feels that her recommendation to this client, her advice, right, to this client to go speak to someone at her university that could serve as a mentor to her may help. Perhaps that might help, but I don't know. If the identifying problem is really, as I perceived it, me, Lindsay, purposelessness and it's like pervasiveness that this feeling is having, on her life. But at the same time, you never know. Just something interesting I thought I'd point out. I'll be curious to hear what you guys think about that. We will continue moving on. We will watch the third and final video in this first little series here. And this is going to be Angela's supervisor with Rosemarie. Okay, so Rosemarie's with Mary, the supervisor this time, the same supervisor we just saw. So it's interesting. We got year one perspective of the session. So let's hear how it went for the client. Let's see how this potential advice giving, or in my opinion, over questioning of the client, right? I understand the questioning. It seems is very solution focused. The counselor is genuinely trying to come up with a solution for this client, right? But here, I think what the client really needed was to explore where her feelings are coming from and to self-identify ways that she might be able to get herself out of those feelings, right? And instead, we kind of focused on the counselor providing potential solutions, saying, have you tried this? Have you tried that, right? So let's see how that made the client feel.
How was that session for you? Frustrating. Mm-hmm. I felt I was getting a vibe.
Please, again, you guys, you note the supervisor's phenomenal use of, her attending skills, okay, verbal and nonverbal.
I wasn't getting answers. And I felt boxed in the sense that I'm supposed to be nice. I'm not supposed to say you're not giving me the answers I want. And it was like to get from friends.
I'm going to pause there because remember, guys, what we talked about, I hope we've talked about to this point, and if we haven't, we certainly will, the differentiation that exists between a friendship and the counseling relationship, client-counselor relationship, right? Very different, and we need to know that, right?
It was painful. He was painful. He wanted to be more confrontive and say that this isn't helpful, but he felt like he couldn't do that. Yes. Yes. And maybe that's part of what I have to learn. But usually I am confronted, but
did you see how that feedback that she just gave her, how that reflection there that the supervisor gave her caused that genuine insight to occur among the client, right? The client goes, oh, maybe that's, part of my issue. That's a beautiful thing right there.
Yes, this is the line of reasoning she's going to take. I go to walk. I rest, I eat. My family doesn't want to hear it. You retired, you went back to school. It should be fun. If you don't like it, get out. And this is what I want. You didn't feel supported by her, and it was more difficult because you don't feel support from your family. Well, my family's fine, but at this point in my life, if you go to school, it should be fun. Mm-hmm. I don't think they realize I have a specific goal, and I am going to achieve it. Mm-hmm. She needed lots of advice. Yes. And she was really frustrated by that. Yes. And so much of it I've done except the mentor, and I don't think it's a mentor. I think there's something that I need to do. I need some therapy to move ahead, to not feel inadequate, to not have this anxiety, to have the self-confidence that I had before. Mm-hmm. And I get a sense that you felt like she didn't understand your position or your feelings. I felt boxed in. Maybe that's a bad word. I didn't know what to do. And then you go back, or at least I go back to being a nice person. Well, what do? Say this session isn't working and get up and walk out? Or? Mm-hmm. You felt it was important to be polite and to be nice. Yes. But I wasn't heard or understood. I was heard, I guess, but not understood. I guess since you didn't feel like you were seen. Mm-hmm. And she didn't understand you who you are. Yes. Did you go back to her? No. No, but you said that very emphatically. definitely no. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Okay. And for those of you who guessed it, that is not how we want the client to react. Would you come back to see this person? No, right? That was a hard no, we call that. But at the same time, great lessons learned, I think, through these videos. I hope you guys are really finding this helpful. Well, I'm going to continue to upload one or two of these every week for you guys to view. We'll talk about it in class. We may even view them together as a group. I find that's incredibly helpful. So hopefully you've enjoyed this first video in our series, Common Pitfalls Made by Beginning Counselors, okay? I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.